Come on, Jay, here we go. Fact or fiction? If I said the New York Knicks need Giannis if they're going to make it to the finals next year, is that fact or fiction?
I'm going to go fiction. Look, I obviously think a guy like Giannis helps you get there, but there are other ancillary pieces out there with some of the assets that Knicks currently have that can get there. So it's just not all facts. That's fiction.
Let's talk about another star player who may be on the move. Monica, if I said Minnesota should find a way to pair Anthony Edwards with Kevin Durant, is that fact or fiction?
Okay. Now, this is fact to a point. I do think that this would work. I think it would elevate. But what is it going to cost you? My concern is if you put yourself in this 2-3 year box as opposed to, as Anthony Edwards has confidently said, allowing the runway to continue to play out. So if you got to empty the clip completely, I don't know. But I do think it's something worth exploring.
All right, and then let's get to this series, which begins tonight. Joe Fortenbaugh, if I said Tyrese Halliburton must outplay SGA for Indiana to win this championship, is that fact or fiction?
Fact. In what world does he not play SGA and Indiana wins 4 of 7 against OKC? Here's the nasty part of this question. Even if he does outplay SGA, I still think the Thunder roll in this series. Too deep, too good defensively, too stacked on offense. Champions have multiple ways to win. The Eagles showed that in the Super Bowl. OKC is going to show it in the finals.
And SGA has a lot that he can accomplish here. Take a look at this list.
Damn you, Shaq.
There are three players in NBA history that have won the scoring title, the MVP, and a championship in the same year. It's Shaq, Lou Alcindor, and Michael Jordan, who did it 4 times. SGA can join this list if they win the championship. Doesn't even have to be the finals MVP, although in all of those cases, that player was also the MVP of the finals. So we were kicking this around a little earlier this morning, Windman. What's at stake here for SGA in this series?
Well, the MLB, I'll just say the Mike, Larry, Bill. That's the Michael Jordan Trophy for MVP, which he won last week. The Larry O'Brien Trophy, which is obviously the goal of every great player. And the Bill Russell Trophy for Finals MVP. You put the 3 of those together, you are in the Hall of Fame. So while Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is 26 years old, he is potentially 4 wins away from cementing his legacy. And then after that, it just becomes how many more trophies can you add to your mantle?
Listen, when you consider how young he is, we had a good moment earlier in the show today, Monica, where Jay Williams started to call SGA the best player in basketball and then sort of caught himself in a hesitant fashion. And I thought that was interesting. I mean, for 2 years in a row now, OKC has been the best team in the NBA. They're also the youngest team to make it to the NBA Finals since 1977. He's the reigning MVP, and in retrospect, probably should have won MVP the year before, and is probably only entering his prime. We could talk about face of the league all we want. That's sort of that's something that people could just assign if they choose to. Best player in the league, I think he's 4 wins away from being that.
Yes, and I guess then the question is, and probably why Jay hesitates, is how long does that reign hold, right? Like, would he be best player in the league until the following June based on his titles, or are you still looking at the body of work of a guy like Nikola Jokic or Giannis Antetokounmpo? Look, I'm going to go ahead and live in the moment, in the present, and I do think that if he's able to accomplish this, then essentially it would be his league based on the results of this finals and how he looks in those finals. But I certainly understand the nuance of the conversation of the other guys that you will put that title on.
It just feels like it's the arrival. Like, we don't see scoring champs actually play for complete teams. Like, the fact that I literally went through Shaq, Steph, KD, and that was an anomaly.
Yeah.
Between like Kobe, right? And I'm not sure if those teams are #1 in defensive ratings. I think it's the pairing of both that makes this whole thing so unique. Because typically the best players in the league, if you're in that category, don't have all the best defensive tools around them to complement how they can score the rock. That's why I give Sam Presti a lot of credit for the makeup of this team.
And that's interesting because you have that argument about both of these teams in terms of why Tyrese Halliburton doesn't necessarily get the nod of being a star at that star level. It's because you look at Indiana and they are absolutely the sum of their parts. To me, though, SGA has clearly been the best and a tier above, even though this team is so complete.
And Windman, for those who are getting set to watch the NBA Finals tonight on ABC and maybe have not seen a lot of OKC, we can talk about not just their MVP, but this 3-headed monster, right, with J-Dub and Chet Holmgren, who are so young, 26, 24, and 23 years old, respectively. We may just be at the very beginning of something special in the NBA.
Yeah, this is the cornerstone of the team that they started when they decided to make Paul George and Russell Westbrook ex-Thunder players in 2019, and this is what they've built. Jalen Williams is a terrific two-way player, has pretty much hit everything you could want this year. Made All-NBA, made All-Defense, made All-Star. Now he's trying to win his first NBA title. And then Chet Holmgren, who has had an incredible rise over the last 2 years, missed his first season with a foot injury, is the number 2 overall pick, has become the kind of defensive anchor in the new era of big man that you need that can play at both ends, stretch the floor, block shots, get up and down. They have definitely built a team that is very modern and is also old school in the way they play with defense first.
Well,
this team is so nasty. You just threw 3 OKC players at Windy, and you didn't even mention Lou Dort, who's one of the best defensive players in the NBA and is going to have a massive impact on this series. So when we talk about it being lopsided, right there is an example why.
Maybe the most. I mean, the Thunder are a great defensive team, not just because of the scheme that they play. They are great individual defenders, right? I mean, that's what it comes down to. With the Pacers' offense, tell me if I'm oversimplifying this. The Pacers' offense was so effective against the Knicks in large part because they were able to orchestrate their way into matchups that gave them huge advantages at different times based upon the Knicks' personnel. OKC doesn't have guys you can do that against, so it's going to be a lot harder for Indiana to have the same kind of offensive output.
Correct. That and the speed that the Pacers played with in that series, running off of misses and makes. But again, in this postseason, OKC's actually been playing faster by the statistical measurement.
So you haven't been even talking about the heart and pride of the Knicks team last year in Isaiah Hartenstein, right? Like his versatility and how he can actually block out shots at the rim or alter shots around the rim before they even go up.
Let's get from Joe Fortenbaugh here, our betting expert extraordinaire. You're going to see a lot of those up there, and I hope everyone in Indiana is taking screenshots and putting them up there and firing up the Pacers, and hopefully we get a much better series than a lot of people are anticipating. But from a gambling standpoint, give me a few things you like.
I would look at OKC minus 2.5 games. No one wants to lay the minus 700 because if you get an injury or two, the whole thing goes sideways on you and it costs you a lot. But you can play the Thunder to win by 2.5 games. What does that mean? A sweep 4-0, or we've got to win in 5, 4-1. That's how you cover 2.5 games there. I can see Indiana getting 1 3-point variance. They're the number 1 3-point shooting team left in the playoffs. I shouldn't say left, there's only 2, but they knocked down 40% of their 3-point shots this postseason. That's number 1. OKC, that's where they could be vulnerable. They clog the lane, they force you to kick it out. Minnesota could not take advantage of that. Indiana will in at least one game, and that'll get them their game. So probably in 5, lay the 2.5.
I will tell you, both teams, obviously are great in transition, but OKC does give up a lot of threes in transition. Just going to state for the record, they give up a lot of threes in transition. And there is somewhat of a weakness. If Indiana can make shots from the outside, if they can get into transition, then that could be a differentiator.
All right, again, tonight is Game 1, 8:30 Eastern on ABC. Tyrese Halliburton and the Pacers, SGA and the Thunder. Our coverage tips with NBA Countdown at 8 Eastern Time. Before